What do you say when you see the world the way it is, say today? And I look at this sometimes, and you see the kind of the Twitter world and the constant online media, where we can almost forget about our own consciousness and absorb the consciousness of the world, much more so than even when there used to be television on all the time, or football matches. Or it seems like now with everyone becoming a broadcaster and becoming a consumer on so many levels, 24 hours a day. Do you think it's harder now to try to observe your own behavior and observe your own consciousness than it ever was?
I've never heard that question. It's a great question. And you're right. We get so caught up in the world we believe it's real.
And it's a great way to escape.
It's an easy way to escape. I always say that confusion's a great hiding place and blame is a great hiding place.
Right.
It's a really delicious projection. It's much easier for me to concern myself with fundamentalists or with greedy bankers than it is to look at my own life.
Right.
Nearly everybody I know that attacks greed and anger and fundamentalism is greedy and angry and fundamental. And I know because I was myself.
Right.
I was a hugely violent man, and I was violent because I was massively insecure. There's no violence in my life.
Talk about that violence and how it started with you and how you were able to identify it.
I became a nightclub doorman. I basically had this massive depression, and I decided that I can't live under the dominion of this anymore. So I wrote a pyramid on a piece of paper, and I wrote down
fear pyramid.
My fear pyramid.
You're famous for this. This is your creation.
Yeah,
right?
it's my creation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you explain it really quick? Because I think it's
I basically
powerful.
just drew a pyramid on a piece of paper.
Okay.
With steps, and on each step of the pyramid, I wrote down a fear. Least fear at the bottom,
right.
Worst fear at the top. Then I basically just confronted those fears one by one until I'd overcome them.
Can you give us an example of what some of those might have been?
The bottom one was a fear of spiders.
Okay.
So it might not seem like much, but if there was a spider in my bedroom, I wouldn't sleep.
Okay. Yeah.
So I found the spider, and I picked the spider up, and I kept picking it up until I became completely desensitized. I didn't realize at the time, but it was a shamanic technique. I was actually collecting power from trauma. I was finding traumatic situations and collecting power.
By confronting it.
Okay. And by proving that fear is an illusion. Okay. Fear is actually an illusion, but if we feed it, it creates 3 dimensions. It creates a 3-dimensional world.
The bear again.
The bear again. We're feeding the bear. So are we feeding the bear, or is the bear feeding us? So I went out and confronted all these fears. And
what were some of the other layers?
So I had
really
a dentist.
Okay.
I hadn't been to the dentist for about 5 years. I had a childhood terror of dentists. I went and sat in the dentist, got rid of that in one go. I've never had even an inkling since. I was a karate guy, and I had a tremendous fear of competitions. So I started to go into all the big, tough competitions at the time, like in Shotokan and like the Liverpool Open. And I think one day I went into one competition. I wasn't a very good competition fighter, but I had 7 fights in one day and became completely desensitized just in one day.
Wow.
I had the ultimate fear was this fear of confrontation. So I became a nightclub doorman. I had a fear of leaving the factory as well. I was working terrible shifts in the factory. I left that and got a job on a building site, just normal hours.
When you say confrontation, I'm guessing you're meaning kind of a non-dojo confrontation.
Yeah, violent confrontation.
Because a controlled martial arts confrontation is probably something that you can be periodized, maybe easier than that random confrontation. I know martial artists that probably still fear, a knife pulled them or on a confrontation on the street.
Most people don't prepare themselves for a real conflict. They prepare themselves in a room where there's rules.
So this week on London Real, we have astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I wake up every morning astonished that an astrophysicist can have 1.7 million Twitter followers.